I'm going to kill you.
ShinRobjira.
Today we're going to be talking about the Bandai movie monster series Monster X 8-inch version from the movie Godzilla Final Wars. Also known as that one monster who showed up at the end of Godzilla Final Wars in the most badass way possible. Who then got his ass beat, and then his last resort was to turn into a four-legged king dog Ghidorah, where... kinda lame.
I'm gonna get crucified.
Paint, detail, and yes, eventually we'll get into it, articulation. This guy is a sinister MF, sporting some of Bandai's very best at the time. And don't worry, we're going to cover every single aspect, every single inch of this man, or alien thing. Guy, he's technically not a dude, I guess. Anyway, starting at the head, all three of them. I love what Bandai has on display here. A very off-whitish gray at the heads over here with beady little red eyes that just strike fear into the hearts of many. We all know that Bandai are the kings of the vinyl detail world, of course, but sometimes you just get a figure from them where it's like, God, they were on top of it. There's so much to discuss here, it's almost impossible. I mean, we've got the skin under the very bony-looking armor. We've got the teeth, this wide friggin' grin of his. How much more deliciously evil could you possibly get? And just the fact overall that he has heads as shoulder pads is just so very cool. And maybe a little blatantly obvious as to what he would become later on, but I dig it. I dig it so very much. Also, I'm sorry if you're gonna see some foreign colors and some just random weird markings on this thing. I bought it secondhand and it was really, really cheap, so I really couldn't say no. And again, I just love how friggin' jam-packed with details this figure is. Hopefully this is enough, but even the opposite side of his alternate head shoulder pads over here have details. It's nothing exquisite, but just the fact that it's not blank solid vinyl on the opposite side is really cool. But anyway, the paint and detail marvels continue as we move into the chest area. Again, I just really dig how this guy looks like he's just rocking bones as armor. And with this fleshy xenomorph-like skin under it, it's just the perfect chemical balance to a great-looking villain. As we move further down, more black skin, more bony-looking armors and such. He's even got some discernible toes over there. Shut up. And yes, even details on the bottom of his feet. Moving on over to a side view of this guy's feet. Ankles, shins, kneecaps, thighs, the whole 9 yards. There's a lot on display here. It's not a lot, but it's a lot at the same time. Everything on this figure feels properly represented for what we saw in the movie. Something that I'm very much hoping to see with the new movie Monster Series version, but let's be honest with ourselves, hoping too high for multitudes of paint on a new movie Monster Series figure is either met, I want to say 50-50, but it feels more 70... 30? I can't do math. Moving on over to the arms, the jaggedy and very pointy bony armor bits are very much on display here in different shades, of course. And it's weird, I never really knew. Is this crystalline? Are they bones? Or did they just put white armor pieces on him to contrast with the black skin? I don't know, and I don't think I care because it does look cool. Which seems to be the vast majority of Godzilla Final Wars as a whole. Which ain't a bad thing. Loving the detailing on the inside of the hands, moving into the wrists and forearms and the bicep. Sometimes cool just works. And movie Monster Series Monster X is just further proof of that. I know we already talked about this area, but his chest and neck area outfitted with these head shoulder pad things, so awesome. Moving back into the head region, we've got horns and we've got stuff going on top of his head. The horns really got the brunt of the abuse, it so seems. Poor horny little horns. Oh dear. But yes, it's the main head I want to discuss right here because damn! I just love that we can see a part of his head through the bony armor plating. And I love that even the armor plating is outfitted with just as much detail as his skin. No matter the angle, no matter the place. Monster X just absurdly fucks. And wowee, would you look at that, even everything on the back of his neck and on the sides over here? It's all friggin' painted. And I do so love how the detailing on his back does change from the very swirly Twizzler-esque looking detail to this very scarred and wrinkly looking detail. On his back over here, we have, I don't know, the glacier that sunk the Titanic? I guess the jaggediness of Monster X's nature could be in part due to the fact that he was in part or was an asteroid? Again, really opting for a cool and interesting look for people to talk about for decades to come. And yet again, just for him to become a giant dog Dora. Why? More of this and a little bit of that moving into the area right above his tail. And then we get the tail with the only differing color we'll be getting on here, save for the red eyes, and that's going to be this metallic bluish gray. Yes, there's spikes on his tail. Wonder if these will be painted on the Movie Monster Series version. Couple that with a lot of the same paint and detail we saw on Monster X's back before the tail smoothens out. And the cool thing about Monster X is he really doesn't feel all that organic. You know, the more I look at this figure, the more he kind of feels almost robotic in some sense. And yes, I am very much aware that he's not a friggin' robot. I just like that you can look at this thing and really not know what's going on. At the very tip of the tail, we'll get more of that bony armor looking stuff, to where we eventually get the twin-tipped tail over here with more detail and just black vinyl. Detail, detail, detail. And no, there's not too much going on the bottom of the tail, save for what we saw on the sides and such. But goddamn, just look at that tail. It's a long-ass tail. Kind of acts like a third leg for him to help him stand. Just to do a quick-on flyby of everything that this figure presents paint and detail-wise. Just one more time, I want to marvel at everything Bandai accomplished with this figure. He's cool, he's new, he's probably the most wholly different monster we got from the Millennium Era, save for probably Orga. I don't know, because Orga was just this blob of Godzilla DNA and Millennium DNA, all that other good stuff. Can we get Orga Form 1 in the ship in the Movie Monster Series, please? 8-inch Monster X is definitely some of early 2000 Movie Monster Series' best works, and I feel entirely comfortable in awarding this lovely gentleman 2 solid stars in terms of paint and detail, even in his rather damaged second-hand purchase condition, I should say. Seriously, the paint, the detail, everything about this figure, it's A1. Now, what about that articulation? I think I could say with the utmost confidence that next to paint, articulation is probably going to be the one thing that will not carry over into the new version. Because there's articulation points on this guy where it's just like that. What? Yep, first, at the center head over here, you can swivel it all the way around. That was a surprise to me when I got this guy out of the box, like, huh. The arms, indeed, can move, and they probably could go all the way around, but due to the very wingy-looking spikes over here, I really don't want to push it, but it already is kind of marked up, so let's see. All the way around. Yep, I hated doing that. At his torso, you will be able to swivel him all the way around. A torso swivel on a Bandai Movie Monster Series figure, zoinks. That's how you know this was from back in the day. Nothing at the legs over here, but at the knee over here, we will get a rather uncooperative swivel at the knee with some rather slight movements at the ankle over here. At the tail, we'll get a full-scale swivel, and at the tip to mid portion of the tail, we'll get a swivel. But we're not quite done yet, because Oh My Godzilla pointed something out to me on this figure that I never friggin' knew even existed, and that's this. Monster X's headular shoulder pads can move. They move out and in pretty decently, and this is an inclusion that I absolutely love, but very much doubt we'll see on the new Movie Monster Series release. I'm not doubting it to be negative, I'm just doubting it so if by some stroke of luck those are actual separate pieces that can swivel, I'll be happy. It's just in the today era of Bandai, it's better to not expect something. Which is a shame because I love swiveling these side to side and everything and seeing how the figure looks with the heads closer to his neck or further apart. Either way, you get a slightly different look out of the figure no matter what way you end up doing this. And this just might be one of the most articulated Bandai figures from the Movie Monster Series to this point. So I'm going to give him a solid star in terms of articulation because masterpiece. Fantastic. I love every bit of it. Moving on. Every time I get one of these 8-inch Movie Monster series figures in, I feel like I always talk about the hopes and dreams of the Movie Monster series doing that again. Even with the King of the Monsters series reboot on the horizon with the new Godzilla film dropping at the end of the year. I would still like to see every new iteration of Godzilla get an 8-inch figure, and any and all villains that appear in that movie get an 8-inch figure as well. Sure, that might defeat the purpose of having the King series back, but how many versions of Shin Godzilla have I bought from the Movie Monster series? I live for double, triple, quadruple, fipple dipping, figure-wise. Coulda beens and what ifs aside, this guy is magnificent, and I hope the new Movie Monster series release can at least somewhat recapture the awesomeness of this release, be it in articulation or hopefully paint to some extent. I mean, from that promo alone, I can tell we're missing something, but we'll find out rather shortly. Couple days. And even in not being the biggest fan of Final Wars, I am a fan of this design, as I said, and I'm perfectly fine with owning multitudes of him. Here's to hoping the Movie Monster series can do Kaiser Ghidorah some justice. But until then, having 2 Monster X's in the collection, I'm happy. Very happy. Thomas hat. Axiom Verge 3 win. Just give me the head and the shoulder pads, please. But any hoodles, that's enough out of me. I have been ShinRobjira. I do so hope you enjoyed this review of a classical Movie Monster series figure. If you by chance want to see these videos a couple weeks, days, or hours early, you should check out my Patreon page where for $1 a month you get access to that and more. And when next we meet, I might be talking about the new Movie Monster series Monster X. I mean, it drops on Friday, and this video might be coming out on the day that it drops, so who knows? Hope you enjoyed the content this week, and hopefully we can get back on schedule sooner rather than later. Bye, everybody. Peace.